So, this material argues that aging is not an inevitable natural process, but a treatable disease, rooted in an ancient genetic survival circuit, ultimately caused by a loss of cellular information.
Right.
The text is highly ambitious, and the personal anecdotes are deeply moving. So, let's dive right into the critique to see how we can refine the structure and pacing to maximize the reader's experience. Let's look closely at the section discussing the origins of life on Earth.
Yeah, the opening is pretty intense, actually.
It really is. I mean, we get these incredibly vivid human stories right out of the gate. We have the author's grandmother, Vera, and her whole bohemian life in Hungary and then Bondi Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And there are these great philosophical ties with quotes from Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, I love that part.
Right. But then we get this visceral, really tragic description of the author's mother passing away in a hospital room. And it's described as her cells literally fighting for oxygen.
Yeah, that was gut-wrenching. You really feel like you're right there in the room with them.
Exactly. But then, almost immediately after that, the narrative just drops us onto this toxic, oxygenless planet 4 billion years ago,
Oh, yeah.
just to look at this microscopic organism called M. superstes.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I turned the page and suddenly I was looking at a yellow froth of archaea on a volcanic rock, I honestly thought I missed a chapter or something.
Right.
So is the connection between the personal loss and the primordial biology fully established in the material, or is that an area to potentially bolster?
The emotional resonance of the personal anecdotes is exceptionally powerful, but the abrupt transition into primordial evolutionary science creates a jarring shift in the reader's experience.
Yeah, jarring is a good word for it. It's a huge cognitive leap.
The weakness here is that the narrative leaps directly from a deeply philosophical reflection on human mortality right into an alien ancient landscape.
Right, straight into the primordial suit.
Exactly. I mean, you have a reader who has just been forced to confront this terrifying realization that death is violent, that losing a parent is profoundly untethering.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional momentum is at its absolute peak there.
Oh, yeah, they're sitting with grief, watching these neurons die and asking, why no one tells you the truth about aging.
Right, so to pull them violently 4 billion years into the past without any connective tissue explaining exactly why they need to go there, well, it just breaks the spell the author just worked so hard to cast.
It really demands a lot from the reader, I think. Like, if you don't explain why understanding this ancient volcanic rock is essential to understanding what just happened in that hospital bed, they're just going to feel lost.
My suggestion would be to create a thematic bridge that explicitly links the human experience of aging to the microscopic survival mechanisms before jumping timelines.
Okay, so don't lose the early Earth stuff. Just prepare them for it.
Right, you don't want to lose the beautiful cinematic science of the early Earth, but you absolutely have to hold the reader's hand as you cross the threshold from the macro human world to the micro biological world.
I see what you mean. So how do we do that? Do they need to, write a whole new chapter?
Actually, no. The frustrating part, or will really be exciting part, is that the raw materials for this bridge are already sitting right there in the text.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the author just needs to assemble them. We don't even need to invent new metaphors for this.
Okay, let's hear some concrete examples then. What are we working with?
So, one concrete example would be to utilize the river source metaphor that's already buried a few pages deep in the material.
Oh, right, the part about hiking in the bush?
Yes, exactly. The text discusses the author hiking in the Garigal clan bush as a child, endlessly walking just to find the physical beginning of a river.
Mm-hmm.
You can use this childhood curiosity as the explicit framing device to transition into the science.
Like literally use the river to get to the DNA.
Exactly. You could explicitly write something like, just as I followed the river in Sydney to its source, I realized I had to follow the river of human DNA back 4 billion years to find the true source of aging.
Oh, I see. I hear your point about using the river metaphor, but is it enough on its own?
What do you mean?
Well, just saying I followed the river of DNA feels a bit passive, maybe? Even a little cliché, especially coming off the heels of something as intense as a parent's death.
Okay, yeah.
I think they might need to lean much harder into the violence of the mother's death and explicitly contrast it with the survival of those first cells. We need to raise the stakes of the transition.
That's a very fair pushback, actually. You could combine the two. Or take a much sharper, more direct approach for a transition sentence.
Something a bit more punchy, right?
Right. So another concrete example would be to add a transition line immediately following the mother's death scene that locks the two eras together.
Like what?
Something like, to understand why my mother's cells forgot how to function in her final moments, I had to look at the very first cells that ever learned how to survive.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really strong. That rooks you right back in.
Yeah, these are just a few out of all possible ways of solving the problem, but the core objective remains the same. You have to honor the emotional weight of the opening while giving the reader explicit permission to shift gears into the biology.
It's like an airlock, right? You can't just open the door to deep space without depressurizing first.
That airlock analogy is perfect. Because once they step out into that deep space, or in this case, the primordial past, they are immediately hit with some incredibly complex biology.
Yeah, the M. superventus stuff.
Right. And if they are still mentally back in the hospital room, they just aren't going to absorb it.
Yeah. Which brings us to that survival circuit, right? The foundational science of the whole piece.
Yes, as I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that aging stems from this ancient dual function circuit.
Okay.
So we have gene A, which acts as a caretaker that stops the cell from reproducing when times are tough, like when the environment dries up.
Right.
And then we have gene B, which is a silencer protein. Its normal job is to keep gene A shut off so the cell can multiply.
Got it.
But, and this is the critical part, gene B will abandon its post guarding gene A if it needs to rush off and help repair broken DNA.
So it's multitasking.
Exactly. When gene B leaves gene A, turns on, reproduction stops, and the cell hunkers down to survive.
That's fascinating. What are the potential limitations or counter-arguments to layering so much metaphor over a mechanical biological process?
The allegorical use of M. superstice effectively dramatizes evolution, but the mechanical explanation of gene A and gene B becomes slightly convoluted within the heavy narrative imagery.
Yeah, because there's just so much going on in that section.
Right. The weakness here is that the material introduces this highly specific, crucial gene circuit, but layers it heavily with competing metaphors about Adam and Eve, cosmic ray attacks, and selfish genes.
It's a lot to take in all at once.
Biological switch the author is trying to highlight.
Yeah, the yellow froth and the dying lakes.
Exactly. You have a reader trying to visualize this toxic, drying landscape and cosmic rays shredding the atmosphere. And at the exact same time, they are being asked to learn the mechanical relationship between two microscopic proteins.
It's totally cognitive overload.
Yes. When you ask the human brain to simultaneously process grand cinematic world building and micromechanical biology, the mechanics usually lose.
Right. They're going to remember the cosmic rays, but forget entirely how gene B activates gene A.
Exactly. Reading this section right now is like trying to learn how to rebuild a car engine while trapped inside a Michael Bay movie.
Oh, man, yeah.
The explosions are cool, but with all the quick cuts and fireballs, I have absolutely no idea where the spark plugs is supposed to go.
That is such a great way to put it. But we don't want to lose the Michael Bay movie completely, right? I mean, the world building's actually beautiful writing. It makes the biology feel epic instead of dry.
No, we don't lose it. We just sequence it better. My suggestion is to isolate and simplify the gene A and gene B circuit explanation using a more grounded mechanical analogy before applying the grand evolutionary metaphors.
Oh, okay, so give them a sterile room to look at the engine first?
Exactly. Once they know what the gears do, then you can unleash the cosmic rays and the drying lakes to show the machine operating under pressure.
What would that look like in practice, though? I mean, how do we ground something so microscopic? Give me some concrete examples.
Sure, so for a concrete example, you could introduce the gene circuit as a literal switchboard, or maybe a factory manager.
A factory manager. Okay.
Yeah, for instance, describe Gene B as a multitasker who works at a factory. He's forced to choose between his main job of guarding the factory door, which is Gene A, and his emergency job of fixing a hole in the roof, which represents the DNA break.
Oh, I see.
When Gene B has to run upstairs to fix the roof, he leaves the door unguarded. Gene A sneaks in and shuts the factory down.
That makes total sense. It's a completely mundane terrestrial analogy, but it perfectly explains the mechanism without any distracting cosmic stakes.
Right. Everyone intuitively understands that physical relationship. If I'm fixing the roof, I can't guard the door.
Yeah, exactly. And then what about the cosmic rays?
So another concrete example of how to execute this is to streamline the cosmic ray sequence itself. Instead of detailing the apocalyptic death of all the other microbes on the planet, first push the camera all the way in.
Zooming into the cell.
Yes, focus intimately on the interior of one single M. superstes cell during the exact moment of the DNA break. Make the internal cellular triage the focus rather than the planetary apocalypse.
So show the panic inside the cell. Show Gene B rushing away from the door to fix the genome.
Exactly. Once the reader clearly understands that the factory is shut down solely because the manager is busy fixing the roof, then you can pan the camera way out to show that this tiny mechanical delay is what ultimately saved them from the cosmic rays.
Oh, that is brilliant.
These are just a couple of ways to ensure the reader grasps the circuit's function instantly, but the goal is to separate the teaching of the mechanism from the dramatization of its consequences.
Right. It's pedagogical pacing. You have to pour the foundation before you build the cathedral on top of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so assuming the reader now perfectly understands this ancient biological origin of aging, the narrative suddenly propels us forward in time, right?
Yes, we leave the primordial Earth and jump into how modern science has historically tried to solve the mystery of aging.
And this historical deep dive takes up a massive portion of the text.
It really does. The text provides a very extensive, almost encyclopedic historical review.
Yeah, we get all these detailed biographies and theories of mid-century scientists.
Right. We look at Peter Medawar and his concept of antagonistic pleiotropy. We explore Thomas Kirkwood's disposable soma theory, Leo Szilard's air catastrophe, and Denham Harmon's free radical theory.
Right, so a key theme running through this material seems to be the historical failure of science to find a singular cause for aging.
Exactly.
That makes sense, but could the evidence also support a different conclusion, like prioritizing the new thesis over the old history?
The comprehensive and biographical review of discarded aging theories stalls the narrative momentum right before the crucial reveal of the primary thesis.
Yeah, it really slows things down.
The weakness here is that the text spends a significant amount of time detailing mid-century theories of aging just to debunk them.
Right, just to throw them out.
While historically accurate and interesting, exhaustively exploring the biographies of scientists like Szilard and his work on the Manhattan Project or Harmon and his time at Shell Oil actively delays the reveal of the author's own information theory of aging.
Yeah, it demands too much patience from the reader who's just waiting for the promised solution.
It's the classic kill your darlings problem, specifically when dealing with rigorous scientific research.
Because the author has clearly done the work. They understand the lineage of their field intimately.
And there's a very natural, almost academic desire to show the reader the exact stepping stones that led to the current moment. You want to honor the giants whose shoulders you are standing on.
But narratively, it's tough.
Right. From a narrative perspective, you are essentially asking the reader to emotionally invest in a series of dead ends, right before the climax of your argument.
Yeah, the reader is looking for the cure to the ultimate human disease, and instead they get a mid-century history lesson on oil company chemists and nuclear physicists.
Exactly. It totally diffuses the tension. Reading these mid-century biographies right before the big reveal is like a magician stopping a magic trick halfway through to give the audience a comprehensive history of the top hat.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. You're just left holding a rabbit, wondering when the trick is going to end.
My suggestion is to condense the historical review by grouping these past theories thematically rather than chronologically, using their failures as a rapid springboard directly into the new information theory.
But isn't it slightly dangerous to just gloss over decades of scientific consensus? We don't want the author to sound arrogant, as if they are the first person to ever think about aging, completely ignoring the historical context.
We absolutely aren't ignoring the history, we're just weaponizing their failures to make our thesis stronger.
Okay, I like that. So what's a concrete example of how to do this on the page?
Instead of detailing the individual biographies and drawing out their independent timelines, you can group Szilard, Harmon, and Orgel together under a single thematic banner.
Okay, like what?
Call it something punchy, like the era of damage theories. Briefly explain that mid-century science blamed aging solely on irreversible things like mutations and free radicals, and then just move on.
Oh, I see. So you honor the history and establish the baseline without bogging the reader down in the personal resumes of the scientists.
Exactly. It keeps the pace fast and aggressive. And for another concrete example of how to pivot out of that history, you can use the cloning of Dolly the sheep as a rapid, sharp transition directly into the main thesis.
Dolly the sheep, right. She's briefly mentioned, but she should really be the star of this pivot.
Absolutely.
Dolly isn't just a historical footnote, she is the definitive proof of concept that shatters those old theories.
Right, because if aging was caused by irreversible mutations, as those mid-century guys thought, then cloning shouldn't work at all.
Exactly. When you take a cell from an old aging sheep and use it to grow a brand new baby sheep, that proves the underlying genetic code isn't mutated or destroyed.
The blueprint is fully intact.
Yes, the cell just forgot how to read it. You could write something explicit to really drive that home.
Like what?
For example, for decades, we thought permanent genetic mutations caused aging, but the cloning of Dolly proved that old wrinkly DNA still holds the pristine, original blueprint of youth. Therefore, the blueprint isn't lost, the cell's ability to read it is.
Man, that is such an effective way to get the reader to the information theory of aging much faster, without losing the context.
Right, it uses Dolly the sheep to completely close the door on the era of damage theories. And again, make it clear that these suggestions are just a few out of all possible ways of solving the pacing problem, but the ultimate goal is to keep the narrative engine running hot right into the reveal of your core argument.
It transforms that whole section from a dusty textbook review into a high-speed runway. You're just knocking down the outdated theories one by one, until the only logical conclusion left is the information theory of aging.
Exactly. It rewards the reader's patience with immediate forward-looking insights. So let's quickly recap the main points of the critique and summarize the actionable suggestions we've discussed today.
Sounds good.
First, to fix the jarring transition in the opening bridge the emotional hospital scene to the deep primordial past by explicitly utilizing the river metaphor, physically connecting the search for a river's source to the search for aging source.
Right.
Second, to prevent cognitive overload during the complex biology explanation, clarify the gene A and gene B circuit using a simple mechanical analogy like a factory manager fixing a roof before applying the grand evolutionary metaphors of cosmic rays and toxic lakes. And third, to maintain narrative momentum, condense the biographies of past scientists by grouping them thematically, using their failures as a rapid launchpad to accelerate the pacing towards your core information theory.
Well, this is truly exceptional source material. The sheer ambition of the scientific argument, combined with the extreme vulnerability of the personal anecdotes, it really gives this text incredible potential to shift how people view their own biology.
It really does.
We highly encourage the author to apply these structural and pacing edits, and we invite you to submit the revised work back to the critique for another round of feedback. We'd absolutely love to see how it evolves.
It is a powerful text with the potential to change paradigms. Just remember you are taking the reader into very deep, murky waters, so you have to be the one to deliberately build the bridge they walk on. Until next time.